Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. Tonight is Monday, October 17th, 2011. Tonight's City Council is going to be meeting in regular session at 7:30, but first we have a public hearing regarding off-street bicycle parking requirements, a change to our code. Mayor Weil.
Okay, I'll start off. First of all, let me remind everybody that it is a public hearing and there is a sign-in sheet that's floating somewhere around there on a clipboard. This was actually put together mostly by our city planner, Paul Logue, at the recommendation of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Task Force and our bike head master plan. Trying to make the city more bike-friendly. It's basically bicycle parking recommendations. This has to do with adding additional portion to the table of our off-street parking requirements. It's to include parking, including bicycle parking. We had, let's see, the Planning Commission actually had a hearing August 17th of this year and received input from the public for that in terms of the changes. We voted to actually change the zoning code in 23-1001, adding a definition. The definition being bicycle parking, a rack which at the frame or at least one wheel can be secured to a user-provided U-lock or padlock or cable. The City of Athens shall maintain a list of appropriate bicycle parking racks to assist developers. Change the definition of parking area to include bicycles. Parking area, any private, public area under or outside a building or structure designed and used for parking motor vehicles and bicycles, including parking lots, garages, legally designated areas. This is for new construction. So we're adding a section to a Table D action to the back end of the zoning code. And this will be to add all commercial retail, restaurants, and similar facilities, a minimum of 4 bicycle parking spaces, plus 2 additional for every 10,000 square feet floor area after the first 10,000 square feet of floor area. So in other words, as you get a bigger area, you'll need more more rack area. Multi-unit residentials. This is for R3 zones or R3 residential apartment complexes. Minimum 1 bicycle parking space for each permitted bedroom. Very similar to our parking requirements right now. If required number of bicycle parking spaces exceeds 16, then at least half of the required bicycle parking spaces shall be covered following the guidelines in the city's adopted bicycle and pedestrian plan, which is talking about sheltered areas. And that's pretty much it. So we're changing a little bit of the zoning code to allow for bicycle or take into account the bicycle population that we have. And I guess that's all, unless you have questions or the public has comments.
First, let's ask if there's anyone from the public wishing to address this tonight. I do have a couple of email letters of support I'd like to read into the record. I want to express you and City Council my support for the ordinance before Council tonight regarding bicycle parking for new commercial and residential construction. Such ordinances are fairly common and help promote bicycle pedestrian-friendly communities. That's from Tom Wolf of 154 Columbia Avenue. Another one to Athens City Council. I regret that I will not be there in person, but I would like to emphasize my opinion that the city needs to adopt a bicycle parking regulation with regard to new construction. There are many cyclists who do not utilize their vehicles because of a lack of parking. As a bicycle shop owner, I hear this complaint almost daily. I sincerely believe that the proposed plan should be moved forward at this time. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Maxine Rantain, owner of Cycle Path Inc., 104 West Union Street, Athens. Are there council members wishing to speak to this?
I might add a few comments that we have a group that's been meeting for 3 or 4 years now, a bicycle and pedestrian work group, and they have worked to develop a plan for the city, which the mayor referenced. And the group looked at the regulations this summer and offered their support when the regulations went for review before the Planning Commission, and then offered their endorsement again today, as Paul Logue announced that this would be held for a public hearing. And I think You can make the comment that, yes, it works well. We have the guiding principles behind the bicycle and pedestrian plan. There are several other plans that the city operates with, too, and one of them is the city comprehensive plan. The other one that is guiding the university, and they're moving forward with that, is the OU sustainability plan that's been adopted by the president. So I think those three kind of things help guide us for that larger vision of how do we make the neighborhoods more livable, how can we relieve neighborhood parking and uptown parking situations, and then also on the campus. We do have a copy of a map. I'm not sure, thank you very much. The tech crew has helped us tonight. This is just an update. It is available on the city website under the planning office's compartment at the website. And what this is an inventory that the city planner has gathered information for the past several years of all of the bicycle racks in town. And it's helping us kind of guide, all right, where are they all on campus? Where are they in the uptown area? How can we, take a look once again at that larger picture and say, where do we need to be putting more? And a lot of good input from the group today. So that might be something that people, as they're thinking about bike racks, bike parking, planning for the future, take a look at that map and offer us any comments, too, on that.
Mayor?
And I will point out, we did spend, $20,000 on the bike ped plan 2 years ago, and this is just part of the unrolling of it. We have more bike lanes now, so we're trying to improve the capacity and there are more bicycles on the street as a result. This is just another piece of the puzzle.
Other members of council? Member Fall?
I think that this is not an onerous sort of requirement on the different rentals and such. I think that with going forward with our bike plan and our pedestrian plan, this is really important because if people don't think that their bikes are secure, they're not going to want to ride them around. And the city police do not like them, tied to trees and those sort of things. So I think that this is an encouraging development and another step to make the city much more sustainable. So it will get my full support.
I think the meeting today, there was discussion about needing more bike racks up on the North Court area, from the synopsis I got from the planner. I also was at the Athena meeting last week, and one of the critiques I heard was trying to lobby. One of the duties they were thinking about is actually lobbying the businesses on East State Street to add bicycle racks for all their businesses. Actually, they were asking me to do it, but I said, you've got the power of the purse. You can do that too.
Right.
You get the numbers out there saying we want bike racks here so we can go shopping here.
Right.
It probably has a lot more effectiveness there.
But putting in bike racks is not as difficult as putting in a parking space. I mean, you are talking minimal amount of space and minimal amount of expenditure. So it's recognizing that the fact that our community has decided to take other forms of transportation, and that we are a walking, pedestrian, and bicycling community. So I encourage it even more.
And we have bike racks on all the buses, so you can actually
Yes.
transport them.
I would like to see it on the school buses out to the high school, actually.
Now that we have a bike lane out there?
Yes,
The county has a bike lane?
and when the bicycle path goes out to the high school, you can't go in on at 7 o'clock, whatever godly hour that they have, but you can come home by bicycle. So I think that would be a good partnership to do with the school district.
Other comments by other council members? Yes, Member Sands.
Just, Mayor, just
Yeah.
reiterate what you said about residential new construction.
This is aimed at new construction rather than trying to retrofit everything.
Yeah,
So the new construction...
but we changed the code to say one bike spot for,
that would be Table D that will end up in the code. multi-residential units, multi-residential, 3 units or greater, a minimum of 1 bicycle parking space per each permitted bedroom. If the required number of bicycle parking spaces exceeds 16, then at least half of them should be required parking spaces shall be covered under the guidelines as adopted by the bicycle and pedestrian plan, the city's plan. And again, really what you see in many cases with the multi-resident, they usually have stairways that are open, so you can actually park them underneath the stairway, so you have some covering there. I'm not sure if that's the approved method or not. I'd have to go look at the plan itself on that.
Okay.
And again, the other one, of course, is commercial retail. You should have, I assume this was given to you guys at one point. Okay.
Member Butler.
I'll get it to you.
I don't believe I saw a copy of that, but I do want to express my support as well. I know Member Knight has been working diligently with this group, as she mentioned, for a number of years. So this isn't just happenstance or willy-nilly. This is something that's been thought out and well-planned. So I have my support there.
Other comments?
Thank you.
The recommendation.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this issue at all? Well, we've got about 18 minutes before the regular session of council, so we'll see you back here in about 15, 18 minutes. City Council, it is Monday, October 17th, 2011. This is a regular session of Athens City Council. We do have a quorum with all members of council present. The next item on our agenda is disposition of minutes from the regular session held October 2011. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have accepted the minutes from October 3rd, 2011. Under communications, I have one short item I'd like to mention. Since the last regular session of council, a good friend of this body passed away, Howard Stevens, who used to set where Sherry sets for many years. I served with him for, was it 6 years, Nancy? At least. I think. 6, maybe 8. A Republican member of council, and was probably what I would consider the epitome of what an excellent council member could be. Howard was always a gentleman. I don't think ever blindsided his fellow council members with an issue. We disagreed on many issues, quite a few. I used to sit where Oahu sits when he was there, and we'd lock horns on several, but never once was it ungentlemanly or improperly handled. But Howard Stevens was a great man and a good friend of this body, and he will be missed. Under communications, Member Nisley.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the auditor's reports from July, August, and September as submitted to council.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have approved the auditor reports from those 3 months. Reports and communications from other elected officials. Mayor Weil.
Really not much. I do remember Howard Stevens sitting there. He was always had a great element of common sense at times, and as you say, he was a gentleman in all things that he did. He also studied the issues quite a bit. I remember him always talking about the Oakmont Phase 3 and the, what is it, Dairy Goat Park there.
Big Trail Park.
Yes, and it still is. I guess the only thing I'd mention is that we are having a planning commission. Some of the communication we're working on is wireless telecommunication facilities. We're looking at cell towers. We're still working on that. And I guess we'll be discussing a little bit of the PUD review request from City Council about the R1s. And there's a rezoning request that's going on in north side of East State Street. And again, this is something we're just working through, looking at the numbers and looking at the lots. So that's a work in progress. And really, that's all I have to bring up unless you have questions.
Questions for the mayor? I remember when Howard sat there, you used to sit over there and stand up and challenge many, many things, and got underneath Howard's got Howard annoyed one time, and he looked at you and said, "Look, either run or get out." I wonder how he felt about you becoming mayor.
He probably thought that was a bad challenge to do.
Member Fall, I'm sorry.
I'd like to say thank you to all the public safety people for the weekend over homecoming and all the work that they did. I think this shows the cooperation that we have with our union employees.
Yes.
So,
And I'm very impressed that we actually had the go bus in the parade. I didn't
Yes.
hear about it the day
it's a
of.
nice wrap. It's a very green wrap, so.
Yes.
But I like
Green and
to,
white.
yes, I like to say thank you to, this is something that goes above and beyond a lot of what people think the police officers and public service safety people do. So,
And
thank
if you
you.
notice on Court Street, it was both Ohio University policemen and Athens policemen.
So-
It's always fun to see them working together like that.
Yep, thank you.
And from everything I heard, probably the nicest homecoming parade anyone can remember. It was very well attended and
Almost too well.
almost too well attended and perfect weather.
Had a nice drag in it there.
City Auditor Kathy Hecht. We've got a tone from Ms. Hecht, so since you're going to be speaking to us for a little while, please take the podium if you would.
Okay, here we are again, the annual revenue report from me. And I've handed out a packet to each council member and the mayor. And so anyway, I guess I'll just get started. The revenue report I give at this time each year mostly addresses the revenue for the current year. However, those figures give us an idea of what to expect for the next year. I'm happy to say that the revenue budget projections have come in right on target so far this year. I believe this is due to the fact that we have been conservative in our estimates while incorporating expected cuts from the state. I've attached a report that shows our total tax revenue through September. Notes on the bottom show the special one-time bumps in revenue so far this year. Important to add is the fact that $38,000 of the $98,000 payment was school tax money that was sent to us in error. We would like them to take this as a credit and not pay us through the end of the year, but we might be refunding that money this year or next. If it's this year, I will have to come to council for an increase in our tax refund amount. Also, I expect our revenue to be up slightly in the next few weeks as we process tax returns received recently because of the October 15th filing extension deadline. I've also included a 20-year timeline of total tax revenues for the city for reference. A few of you already received that from Ray, but I thought it would be interesting for everyone to get that. As you can see, when our tax revenue dipped in 2004, it took 3 years for it to recover. Income taxes are the main source of revenue for the city, particularly the general fund. As we discussed last week, the average amount needed to pay 1 month's expenses in the general fund is about $680,000. This is more than our current unappropriated balance of $587,000, but we do not expect every department to spend their entire budget for the year. That's not happened since I've been in there, and I wouldn't expect that to happen this year at all. Any unspent monies will then be available for carryover for the next year. While the income tax revenue is better than anticipated, we are keeping a close eye on those receipts through the end of the year. I've attached a sheet with revenue projections for next year. As you can see, we have adjusted for state cuts in the local government funds, tangible personal property tax, and estate tax. You probably didn't notice, but our inside millage was reduced $50,000 by the county for next year. That was in the resolution recently passed. Basically, any increase in income tax revenue has been offset by state cuts. I did not include any impacted funds and cut out or reduced grant funds since those sources of revenue are not reliable. We received a back payment for University Courtyard this year, so that revenue will be cut in half next year. On the other hand, court revenue is up slightly based on fines and costs. All in all, we are expecting about a 3% reduction in revenue in the general fund next year. Streets, I've also included an attachment with revenue projections for the street fund. The reduction in revenue is mainly due to elimination of grant funding. We will still see increased revenue from the 1/10% income tax increase this year, and the reductions that we predicted shouldn't affect operating cost money available. Fees for services, water, sewer, and garbage. While the revenue has come in as expected, the budgets are very tight in water and sewer. Lots of projects going on, as we know, and some debt. The sewer fund has a little cushion available in the sewer debt fund because of the revenue split instituted a few years ago, which has been very successful. Once again, though, I recommend changing that split from 72-28 to 75-25. The water fund is tight and needs an annual raise of 3%, especially since we took on a new OWDA loan last year. The garbage rates are probably good where they are, depending on any changes to service next year. The community center and recreation funds continue to balance their expenditures with their revenue. I've also included debt schedules for this year and next year. We have made a lot of headway in paying down debt since I became auditor in 2004. Not just because of me, I should add in there that council has really paid attention, and the administration, and we have all, I think, done a good job at concentrating on that. The TIF money is used to make payments on the East State Street note, which is now $750,000, down from $4 million in 2002. The community center bonds are funded by a levy and will be paid off in 5 years. The EPA litigation note is paid for by the $1 assessment on service charges. We plan to pay off the remaining $60,000 this month and have requested the utilities office to stop collecting that fee. The sewer fund retired one of its OWDA loans this July, the largest one, reducing our yearly sewer OWDA payments by $314,000. As we close out October and November, I will have more accurate figures and continue to update you for the final budgeting process. Please keep in mind that, while thoughtful and based on experience, these projections are just that, projections. Finally, I would like to thank Deputy Auditor Ray Hazlett for his hard work in compiling the information on these attachments. Any questions?
Member Full.
How will the collection, the potential collection of income tax by the state affect this?
Centralized collection. That has become a very big issue. I was talking to a few members before council, and Deputy Auditor Ray Hazlett and the tax administrative assistant went to a meeting on Friday that was sort of short notice, that was pulled together. There was a representative from Central Ohio there, or that representative. And it's a pretty big issue, and they have of course, many accountants, CPA organizations, and the Chamber of Commerce supporting them. And so I think what they're trying to do is standardize collections. 579 entities collecting taxes in Ohio, and I understand that as a process. However, that will affect some of the revenue that we bring in. If we have to give up, our net operating loss carry forward, things like that. And there's just a whole list of things that we do or don't do, and same with other entities. It's all over the place. Our minimum amount to collect or refund is $5. I'd say 90% of the state has that set at $1. However, we changed that back in 2005. It's not worth the time, to audit a refund and mail a letter for $1 to get $1 back, or to send it. But there's a lot of little things like that, but some of them will certainly affect revenue that we collect that other entities don't, and we will have to give on that some. However, if we can be successful with that, and as I said to people from my office went on Friday, I'm planning to go along with Mary Ann McClure, our treasurer, and the tax administrative assistant again this Friday to another meeting regarding that. If we can, reach a compromise, then it won't come to that, because the centralized collection of tax revenue is just, I just think it would be a nightmare for us, honestly. I think the idea that they could audit our returns and find issues and make changes to collect money that's still owed to us just wouldn't happen. I think they'd be processed as is, and of course all the other issues I brought up about waiting for money in the bank, things like that. And then delinquencies is a big issue for us, and we were cited when I first came into office by the auditors for not following up on that. And we've had a major push since Pat Lang became law director in trying to collect that. Well, we're still working on that, going back several years. We really can only go back 3 years for business and resident collections. However, withholding taxes do not have a time limit because that's money an employer withheld from their employee and didn't pay. They were never entitled to that money, and so we're still trying to collect delinquencies, and that's been successful for us. I don't see them concentrating on all those delinquencies for every few $1,000s or $600 or $700, which to us is a large amount. We want every penny we can get. I don't see them going after people for those amounts, so I think it would affect us quite a bit. And I'll know more after we go to some of these meetings, which of course everyone is invited to attend the one this Friday, but we will have representatives there, so.
Mayor Weil.
I would point out, Kathy mentioned that our garbage fund does look good. Realize that that is a shifting sand because the policy that's going to be put in place in the next couple of years may change what we have to do to collect recyclables. The Solid Waste District is putting their new plan in place. Probably nothing would come down the pike immediately, I have to assume, but we don't know that for sure because the policy has to be adopted and then implemented. So there will be some changes there, but what they are, is anybody's guess. It's a committee of 15 that affects us.
Other comments or questions for the auditor?
I'll add that
Kathy.
she did, it's a good job, they can do a good job.
Oh, you know, I just, looking at your numbers, when I first sat down in this room, we were collecting less than $4 million. In 1990, I bet it's about 3.3, and now it's well over 10 million. It's quite an
Amazing.
operation, the city.
Yes, it is.
You know.
Yes, it is. The majority of that, well, you all know, 74% goes into the general fund. That's our source of revenue there, so very important
Yeah.
in the city.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
City Law Director Patrick Lang.
No report tonight, Mr. President.
Let's move on to ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 9811 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a lease agreement with the Athens County Agricultural Society and declaring an emergency. Member Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of 9811.
Second.
Okay. And this is a lease that we enter into with the Agricultural Society, and it's for a portion of their land that the city then is able to use for parking spaces. And so what we're doing is renewing the lease with the Agricultural Society,
The fairground.
with the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 111 is an ordinance authorizing design engineering of the wastewater treatment plant improvements and authorizing an inter-fund transfer, project number 248. I should have said these are ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 10111 is an ordinance authorizing design engineering of the Joneswood, Riverview, and Terrace water line replacement and other distribution system improvements. Ordinance 10211 is an ordinance levying special assessments for sidewalk improvements associated with the Mill Street project and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 10311 is an ordinance affirming the mayor's execution of a subordination agreement with the city's mortgage, with Travis Stevens and Laura Farrell for the real estate located at 23 Hanlon Avenue. Ordinance 10411 is an ordinance amending the 2011 appropriation ordinance. Ordinance 10511 is an ordinance authorizing the auditor to reduce 2011 year-end appropriations. Moving on to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 10611 is an ordinance approving a planned unit development on Hickory Street and granting a variance. Member Fall.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an ordinance approving the PUD for a project on Hickory Street. The variance is to have a PUD under 2 acres, so far. Yeah. And this is to develop some multi-family homes on Hickory Street, which is right above, people think about off Richland Avenue, right above
C&E.
Sydney. Let's see. So we've had several brain freeze
Meetings?
meetings public hearings, sorry, public hearings about this, and it's also brought up an issue about having plan unit developments go forward without added investigation in R1 districts, which is something that we will look at further, but this is something separate. So.
Further comment on ordinance 106? Ordinance 10711 is an ordinance amending ordinance 08211 to extend the current contract authorized by ordinance 10186, granting a franchise to Columbus Southern Power Company for use of the city right-of-way and declaring an emergency. Member Gosney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that we consider this under suspension of the rules tonight.
Second.
Thank you. This is extension of, proposed extension of our contract with Columbus Southern Power, also known subsidiary of AEP. And this is to allow them to use city right-of-way to deliver electricity in the city. The current contract was put in place in 1986, I believe. It was in place for 25 years. We're working on a new draft that addresses tree trimming on the city right-of-way, and possibly, depending on how the negotiations go with Columbus Southern Power, some renewable energy aspects as well.
Further discussion on reasons for this suspension. All those in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 10711?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules have been suspended.
Thank you. I would like to move adoption of ordinance 10711.
Second.
And like I mentioned a minute ago, I went into most of the details, but we're asking for a 6-month extension of the current contract with Columbus Southern Power in order to provide more time to deal with the proposed changes to this long-term agreement with the city.
Other comments? Member Fall.
As you know, there's been cutting on the east side here, and ooh, have I heard it. People are saying that one of the concerns that they have is in the extension process, they're just being able to bulldoze basically through areas. And people are concerned. I mean, they are doing major cutting. I mean, and that, and with the gas line, I mean, people are looking at their trees being assaulted on the near east side, completely assaulted. And I'm really concerned about the tree health, especially from some of the gas line. I mean, they're digging huge pits on the sides of big giant trees. So 6 months seems really, I see it as the kind of the carte blanche for them. And I've heard it from lots and lots of people. So I don't know, should it be 3 months? When is it going to be?
It does state in the ordinance that if we reach an agreement beforehand, then the new agreement would go into place.
I would like to see an agreement beforehand, because what I see is they go and cut. They don't tell people. If it's not on private property, they don't tell people that they're going to cut. And people come home from work and their trees are cut and they're really messy, and I'd like to see this whole process cleaned up. And I mean, our trees are sacred, and we know that because we are a Tree USA city. So, and I hear a whole lot every night, people calling me, so.
And I've seen some of that myself, and I
Yes.
know when they came through, I think it was 4 years ago, roughly,
Yeah.
maybe 5 now. When they first
People
came
are concerned.
through, or when they came through last time, they did
Yeah.
a similar type of activity. And that is one of the reasons why I'm asking for the extension, is to make sure we get strong language in there. We had an initial agreement that we could have put into place, but it didn't have any teeth to it. It was basically in my opinion, it was asking, just for a more friendly communication with the city, and it needs to be a little more than that.
Right.
I think.
Yes, more teeth. Thank you.
Other comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 107?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance has been adopted. Ordinance one, I'm sorry.
Abstentions?
Oh, there is one abstention? Two.
No, I didn't abstain.
You're okay?
I'm okay.
There is one abstention. I'm sorry, I missed that. Member Bain is abstaining from the vote on
Oh,
ordinance
yes, I am.
107.
I'm sorry, thank you. Thank you.
Two extensions now.
Yes, 5, 2, okay.
I understand we have two abstentions.
Yes, and I voted to suspend because it was procedural
I
rather than
understand now. I
substantive.
know how many votes it takes. It all became clear to me, Member Bain. I'm a little slow on the uptake tonight, but ordinance 10711 has been adopted, and the clerk will reflect the proper votes in the minutes of the meeting. Ordinance 10811 is an ordinance declaring property on Alexander Street no longer needed for a municipal purpose and authorizing the mayor to donate land parcels to the Athens County Habitat for Humanity. Member Bain.
Mr. President, 10811 is an ordinance that was to do an action that was presented to us maybe as much as a year ago when we went forward on the CHIPS grant. I have to admit, my mental GIS failed me for a while. Those of you that would like to see a map, we do have one. We have lots on the Alexander Avenue, and so what we're doing is taking two of those lots, and as part of this larger CHIPS process, going to say they're not needed for a municipal purpose, and then the mayor will be allowed to donate those lots to Habitat for Humanity for the construction of the house. And I read the paper yesterday, and I was ready to combat the question about religion and habitat. I guess I don't know that I have to, although I will say that the land will become the property of the people who purchase the house, because they do purchase the house. This is not a giveaway. This is community members, in this case the women, raise the roof, creating a house with the people who live there, who have given in-kind contributions, with contributions from Lowe's, with contributions from other different people. I'm not sure Lowe's does, but different other appliances. So the people who get the house will also have the land. There will be a single family in an R1 zone. Seems like a okay deal to me. I'm a fierce protector of R1. The one thing that I guess I would like to stress, and I will confess I don't have a conflict because I don't earn a salary from Habitat, but I certainly have worked on occasion, and several times when I've worked on Habitat projects, the beneficiary, in the sense that people were working together to help a person have a house that they, rather than a trailer out on a run in the back country, rented from somebody under Section 8 or something like that. In that case, 3 times at least, the individuals were people that had special needs children, and they were very often women-headed households. So in other words, we created, we as a community created a house that had wider doors, special showers. Otherwise, I guess they would have had to bail water in order to wash the child up who was in a wheelchair. And it seems to me that it's an ultimately wonderful way for religious and not religious. I've never seen anybody who was a believer in a creed other than a Christian creed, or more likely atheists or agnostics, turned away from working. If you can do a shovel, you're welcome, or whatever else is needed to be done, despite their letter to the editor. This will not in any way go into the coffers of any church in the city of Athens, the land sale or the land distribution or the financing of it. In fact, money usually goes the other way into Habitat, where churches will collect for Habitat. In this case, it's Women Raise the Roof. So the house may be $100,000. The people will be paying a relatively modest payment, mortgage payment, maybe $450 a month. I'm sure if Ken wants to talk, he can tell me it's different, but it's for a person with a family, their own place. It's magical to see this happen. I can't say it any other way, but I don't want to get all mushy on you all. But I do think that it's something that we as a community do. It might be based on, for some people, religion, other people, it's just community, going out and helping people who need help to get a place to live. Right now, I think we are, as a community, we've built 30. Some of you sign the 2x4s at Lowe's, other people contribute to the scrap drive, other people go to fundraisers. I mean, we're always squeezing money out of Athens one way or another. Taste of Athens is another one. And raffles, you name it. More ways to raise money than you'll ever believe, and then outright contributions. So we as a community are doing this. We've built almost 30 houses, I think. I think we're in the upper 20s, and we've also, with the funds that we have been taxed, built 35 houses overseas where the demand is slightly less than ours, I mean in terms of accoutrements. So that's basically where it is. I did not participate in the earlier discussion, but I thoroughly do support it, and it's not it is not irreligious, but it's not something that benefits churches. So there we are. Yeah, Paul?
Mayor Weil.
You almost said member.
I did.
Again, I was told this would be the first Habitat house in the city of Athens.
Yeah.
I'm aware that there's a slip-from property that's been told me several times. There are, this is one reason why it was acquired, I guess, in the past. So there will be some extra engineering that has to be done on this. I wish we could actually afford to do more of this. I just was at the Rotary today and ended up sitting next to Keith Wattsman, who was talking. I think he said 120 people turned away. I'm just guessing at the number, and about half of them children. So there's a need in terms of homelessness. I don't know how much we can fulfill that need. We only have limited resources. The CHIP grant, this is a new section of the CHIP grant we're trying. If you look at the CHIP strategies, I think they call them CHIS, community housing improvement strategies, there's a laundry list of how to do this. We have not tried this in the past, as well as we haven't tried the rental rehab in the past either, in the near past. I think a long time ago we tried it, did not succeed. So we're trying it again. This is new territory in one sense. I don't know how we'd extend it to another cycle. It depends, because we only have so much property. I would hesitate to give up more property at that point. I'd like to see citizens come through. I'd like to see if we could acquire some other abandoned lots that are out there in the city. But that's further down the line. Again, I know there are issues with any of these things that go through. And I'll leave it at that. I think it's a good step that needs to be taken. But like I say, it's a small step.
Thank you. Other members of council wishing to speak to this? Nancy, we'll get to you in just a second. I think I've been a donor to Habitat for 20 plus years now, and until this, I never realized it had any religious base to it whatsoever. And raised money for the Rotary projects that they did overseas and in Nelsonville, and I don't think there's ever going to be a complete I'm a believer that freedom of religion also means freedom from religion, but you cannot have complete separation and get anything done for the I don't see any of the banks or Wall Street trying to provide for these needs. So, this is who's doing it. Our homeless shelter is being led by a religious organization. I don't see anybody else out there wanting to do it. So, if we're going to take care of some of these needs, we've got to. I think Member Sand said earlier, every one of the food banks seems to be led by religious organizations. Oh, well. Any other comments on, 108? Yes, Member Butler.
Thank you. I might just add that my understanding, too, is that the recent homes that Habitat has been building are energy efficient, are green-minded homes, and perhaps that's a comment that can be addressed as well. But that's my understanding, that their current construction efforts are also mindful of the needs of the environment and being more sustainable and efficient in that process.
They have built straw bale houses. Did you wish to speak before council? If you would, we need for you to come to the podium, since otherwise they can't hear you out in TV land, and we need for you to give us your name and address.
I'm Christine Hughes, 69 Grosvenor Street. I also own businesses right in front of this proposed build. And I am not opposed to this on principle overall. I just want to make sure that all of the concerns that I have been thought through and addressed. And so I'll just go through them. Just because a part of nature is not being used doesn't mean it's not useful to the municipality. And I'd like to recommend further consideration before the proposed donation of green space to Habitat for Humanity goes forward. My concerns are the city owns very little green space, and this would reduce that asset further. Private landowners may develop their land to capacity, leaving even less green space. For example, right down the corner, on the corner away from this property is a project that's been in the plans for a long time that's supposed to be a big condominium development. Lack of green space is a factor of urban sprawl as people move to the edge of the city to be closer to the rural setting that feels like a healthier environment. State-owned public lands, natural resources such as Stroud's Run are currently at risk for private and industrial development. I think you guys might know about that a little bit, which would further reduce nearby green space. Reducing natural wildlife corridors pushes more animals into gardens and streets. I've seen deer on Grosvenor Street recently that I never saw before. Beyond supporting a variety of species and habitats, urban green space contributes to essential services including water filtration and absorption, nutrient cycling, air filtration, and noise buffering. If upkeep of the green space is a factor in your decision, consider that individuals, organizations, or businesses, including mine, would be eager to adopt and maintain the property to the city's standard. And also please consider that, according to today's listing on foreclosedhomes.com, Athens City has 20 single-family homes in foreclosure owned by a bank. Athens has many residential vacancies in student-focused condominiums and apartment buildings. So instead of building on green space, transforming a student rental in a neighborhood into a Habitat for Humanity family home would benefit landlords by reducing vacancies, would benefit low-income families by making what was a high-priced student rental house into an affordable family home. And I believe we have about 800 landlords. I think that was a quote in a recent article by Jim Phillips. So I'm getting to an option that maybe if each of those 800 landlords contributed $100 toward Habitat for Humanity, that money could be used to purchase a decrepit house or whatever, and that would be donated to the city, and then the whole grant thing could still go forward. Habitat for Humanity is well regarded in this community and recently increased its commitment to sustainability by turning an old storefront in the Plains into a restore, which sells building materials that would otherwise go into a landfill and reduces new materials needed for construction. Taking this commitment further, Habitat for Humanity could move toward green building, sounds like they are, using land, but also using land already developed rather than eliminating more green space. In a project like that, Habitat volunteers would gain marketable green building skills, homeowner would enjoy low energy costs, our land would enjoy a lower burden of new materials used, and the city, Habitat, and the generous donor, bank, landlord, realtor, etc., would enjoy positive publicity for being so thoughtful, wise, and visionary.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thanks, Christine.
Other comments? On to ordinance, I'm sorry. Who did I miss? Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
problem.
My name is Kenneth Ehlers. I'm the Executive Director of Athens County Habitat, and I just wanted to let you know that we are doing every effort, we're making every effort that we can to educate the community in what we're trying to do. It was brought up at session last week that we should canvass the neighborhood. We have done that this weekend and finished up this morning. And so I just wanted to let you know that we are making efforts to make the community aware about what's going on, try to engage the community and get them active. And the pamphlets that I delivered to you beforehand are the literature that we passed out, which include our Energy Star qualifications that we're currently building to, and we are very, very, very pleased and eager to work on partnering with the community on bigger Energy Star, our energy and green building capabilities. So this is something we're looking into, and we're very eager to partner with the city on that in the future as well.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? On to ordinance 10911, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Athens, Ohio, to execute an agreement with Grand Vista Village LLC for a permanent utility easement. Member Bain.
Mr. President, we are proceeding with a water easement, which is contained in your packet. You can see the tract with the courses and distances, but possibly the more interesting thing is the map that's in there that shows what the easement is. And I do believe that the city engineer has aspirations of using it for a bike path as well. I think it's already been discussed. Maybe it's not finalized, but we are accepting this easement with this ordinance.
Other comment?
I should note that Grand Vista was the most recent multifamily apartments building that's kind of on the side of the hill of the University Estates. Remember that one? I remember parking in washers and dryers.
Okay. Other comments? Ordinance 11011 is an ordinance authorizing repair of the Grosvenor Street slip, which is project number 268. Again, Member Bain.
Mr. President, 11011 is an ordinance that authorizes the Service Safety Director to enter into contracts where necessary for the Franklin Grosvenor slip. We had heard last week Christine was kind enough to say that Nisley was kind enough to say that we were trying to do this you will be trying to do this as a wintertime project. And that wintertime project will require some preparation in 2011. We may need to get secure easements. We may need to do some other things. We'll certainly be starting on the sidewalk. And at the request of the city engineer and the service director, with this ordinance, we will be moving forward. We may even appropriate the money if necessary. If it will be expended, it probably will be, in order to be ready when the time comes to go out to bid to have this long-awaited item completed.
Other comments? Mayor Weil.
The concept of it can be done, the slip fixing can be done, I believe, during the winter, because it's basically putting pilings in. The question, of course, is how far we go into the winter time. If we get it all done, realize the asphalt plants don't open up till April. So the idea is, we don't want to get too much in the forefront of the winter, but the idea is to try doing it so we can get a bargain in terms of the contractors and make some, make it on the cheap, so to speak, in terms of cost, because that's usually a low time for many of the contractors, road contractors as well as slip contractors. But it will straddle our fiscal year, just so you know.
Other comments? Mr. Soprani, please come forward.
Bill Soprani, 34 Grosvenor Street. I just want to get up and applaud I think it was made known to the mayor that there was a large number of people that met on Grosvenor Street about this, and he's expedited this matter, I think, rather quickly, and I applaud that, and I hope, I get the sense that City Council will be following through, and I applaud that, too. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Joe, did you have something to say? Okay. That was Joe Prisley applauding from the back row. Okay. Member Gosney.
As probably several other council members have been contacted over the last few years, or many years for some of them probably, about this problem, and I think it's great that we're finally addressing it. It's something that those with homes near that site have been concerned about for a long time, so.
Member Sands?
When my mother was in high school, she lived in one of the houses up that Grosvenor Street, near the Grosvenor. She came home one afternoon from Athens High School. The house was full of gas. The land had moved, the gas line had broken. She called her parents, and they got her out of there, and they never spent another night there. So she was in high school. My 45th, make it louder, please. My 45th reunion from graduation from high school was a couple years ago. We're working on my 50th here. So that was a long time that this slip has been being dealt with. That was the point of that whole story. I'm sorry.
For everyone in the audience that does not realize, Grosvenor and Franklin Street was where all of the clay came from that made the bricks that used to be fired down on Stimson Avenue. When I first came here, there were still the brick kilns down there that you would see. And Helen Gray used to tell the story of going up and down Grosvenor and the little cars. She died at the age of 99 about 2 years ago. But yeah, it has been a problem a long time, and this is not going to be an easy fix. I remember previous mayors talking about it's 19 feet going down through slip-prone clay before you hit bedrock. Yeah. So, you know, there are reasons that this has not been done. It's going to be a major problem to do it, but it's going to be a major improvement. Yeah, Mayor Wall.
I think we're talking about $300,000 for about 200 feet, okay, of roadway. And I think it's going to be about half just the outside lane, too. So it is expensive. But these things have to be done sooner or later, just like Jeff Hill. I mean, there's you know, and we're always going to see more slips. The previous administration had to deal with 3 on Sunset, if you remember, which weren't pretty.
Yeah.
So these things,
Expensive, too.
you know, we've got melting hills here, pretty much.
Yeah. Other comments? Ordinance 11111, boy, that's a lot of ones, an ordinance declaring a real and present emergency, thus obviating the formal bidding procedure to replace the armory roof. Mr. Sands, Member Sands.
Mr. President, I'd like to move that we consider ordinance 11111 under suspension of the rules.
Motion and a second. Reason for suspension.
Okay. The reason for suspension is that the roof of the armory needs fixed as soon as possible. The season for doing that is ending soon, so we want to get this underway as soon as possible.
All those in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 11111?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules are suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt ordinance 11111.
Second.
This ordinance authorizes the Service Safety Director to expend up to $30,000 for this process of fixing the roof on the armory. We're estimating that $25,000 would be used for the roof itself, and another $5,000 to deal with some of the masonry work around the roof. The armory has a shingle roof on it. I didn't know that until this happened. You can't see that roof. And this is necessary to maintain the structure for, we hope, some great use in the future.
Which is being worked on.
Other comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 11111?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 11211 is an ordinance amending the 2011 appropriation ordinance. Member Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance will appropriate from the unappropriated balance the sum of $17,000 so that the fire department can purchase vehicle airbag lifts. The vehicles currently don't have them because the old ones had outlived their usefulness and had to be removed. But you never know when the use of one might be required to lift a car and save a life. So.
Other comments? Ordinance 11311 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a contract to upgrade the city's computer networking systems and declaring an emergency. Who's speaking to this?
I don't know, I guess I will.
It looks like it, Member
Is this-
Sands.
Are we suspended on this one?
I don't have that.
No, I didn't think so, okay. No? Okay. That sounded pretty...
You don't need to
Okay.
suspend.
This is, just as it says, upgrading the city's computer networking systems. We had a breakdown of the computer networking system not too long ago, where the code office and several...
Community center, code offices out of communication. We had several lightning
for
strikes.
over a week, due to several lightning strikes. This will upgrade the system, upgrade our bandwidth, install lightning protection, and all in all, just give us a better system. Our
Well,
experts...
it's here if we need him.
If you want him to explain it, you just call him out, he's probably watching.
Oh, he's hiding, is that what he's doing? Actually,
I think he's
Ron
trying to
Forrest,
see if we really need him.
I'd like Ron Forrest just to give us
Okay.
a brief...
Ron, you're on the spot, Ron.
Ron,
You didn't get out of it, Ron.
a quick synopsis of
You want
what
to stand or
this new
sit?
system
Okay.
would be doing for us.
You
Please.
better stand.
Basically, as Mr. Sands said, a few weeks ago, we took a major lightning hit from the lightning storms that we had. It took out several radios that we own on the shots to the different locations. The project will involve to replace those radios with a licensed band radio. We are getting some interference in the 5/8 band. This will move us out of that band, get rid of the interference, improve the system overall.
And allow us to expand the system in the future
Yeah,
as necessary.
Our bandwidth now, we're really at the limit of our bandwidth right now with Code Online and the Rec Center Online for most of their work. This will allow us to to meet that demand and go past it.
One of the changes, of course, is that we've gone to, in code particularly, the cloud system. Is that how they're doing it these days?
Yeah, all their work is done online, so they're very dependent on that connection to the internet. So if it does go down, they basically stop working, so it has to be up and running at all times.
To the cloud.
To the cloud.
Other comments? Remember Rick Abel saying we got our first email at the city and we're trying to figure out how to answer it? And that was only one mayor before him. Boy, how things have changed, Ron.
Okay, this system upgrade would be about $85,000, coming from several funds that we talk about later. It's spread throughout the city. So, any questions while Ron is here? We need to ask because I won't be able to answer them later on.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
What are we up to, adoptive?
We're moving right along.
Okay. Now, under ordinance 114 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application to participate in the 2012 state capital improvement and/or local transportation improvement programs for Issue 1 funds and to execute contracts as required and declaring an emergency. Member Nisley, can you explain all that?
I'll try. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move that we consider this ordinance under suspension.
Second.
And the reason for that is that we do have a grant application due, and so we need to be able to submit the proposal in a timely manner.
Further discussion on suspension. All in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 114?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules are suspended.
Mr. President, I move adoption of 11411.
Second.
Okay. And the purpose of this grant application, it is capital improvement funds. We had applied for it last year. We are applying again this year. It was not approved last year. But we do have a better ranking this year, and what this would allow is for us to complete our North Court Street infrastructure improvements project. The grant application is due November 1, and what it would enable us to do would include the replacement of the storm tunnel under Court Street. You might remember our mentioning of it last year, that there's an old sandstone bridge under Court Street, and some of our infrastructure is under that. It would also allow us to repair the storm line in front of the one of the former restaurants on Court Street, the Blue Gator, and then allows us to do the brick pavement for the remainder of Court Street to Carpenter after those improvements are made.
Great. Other comments? Yes,
I
Mayor
would
Weil.
mention that we tried for this last year. We had some of the points, but we didn't get all of them. There's a numerical value that goes for the Public Works money. So we're really just recycling it to see if we can get it this grant cycle. It has actually storm and sewer, I believe, components to it, as well as the bricks eventually. And if you ever seen the pictures, it is like sandstone blocks underneath there. They've cambered it with the camera, and it looks downright archaic. So
I thought it
Antique.
almost made it impossible to do that. I'm glad to see that we are trying to do it, because does it not go underneath some of the buildings like Boney's and others as it heads towards that section of town? Yeah, so it would be great to get this done. If people are wondering why the brick streets stop at a certain point, that's it. A very old tunnel. Okay. Other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance has been adopted. Ordinance 11511 is an ordinance declaring a city vehicle no longer needed for a municipal purpose. Member Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. This discussion, some of it was held last week when we had our committee of the whole meeting. The city has a vehicle, a 1981 Porsche, and what we're doing is disposing of that vehicle, and this is we need to request council approval so that it can be moved forward so we can dispose of that. What we will be doing when we replace the vehicle, I see some signs of excitement from the audience, like the 1981 Porsche. But what we will be doing is consulting with the Green Fleet Committee that works for trying to find economical vehicles for our city use, and perhaps doing it multi-purpose as we're facing tight financial times, ways that we can use a new vehicle with other people.
Okay, who's going to explain how we got the Porsche so we don't look like complete idiots?
I will.
Okay.
Since I have kids in Dare, it's a Dare vehicle, and Dare gets vehicles from drug busts, basically. And I always thought it was a really bad precedent to show all these high school students that you can have a Porsche if you deal drugs. So I'm really enthusiastic about getting rid of this. I mean, even my kids say that. Look at what people can have if they deal drugs. So
actually, it wasn't come up that way. Actually, it was a donation from a police officer who had a Porsche.
But they go around to Dare. It has Dare stickers on it, and so all my friends, all my kids' friends, talk about, look at the cool car that you can get. So it's a really bad precedent. So I think that it would be good. You can get like a little tootly yacht or something that says, you don't want this car. So
I have found this vehicle an embarrassment since we've taken it,
Yes.
since we accepted it. Other comments? There you go, Chris.
Can I make a
Sure,
bid?
please.
you can't afford it, Ken.
Do you know what the insurance on that thing is?
It's not an easy car to maintain either.
No.
No,
One
in
of the issues right
fact,
there.
the one time I asked
were
about
trying
it,
to
probably
sell
about 2 years ago, somebody told me it hadn't ran in quite some time, and people had trouble keeping it running and all that, so it's not a great vehicle, really.
My dad would buy it, though.
But we want
After
someone
that
to buy
lecture? Okay. Any other comments on 115? Ordinance 11611 is an ordinance amending the Athens City sign regulations, introduced by all members of council. Member Paul, are you speaking to
Yes,
this?
thank you. We're introducing this ordinance with the changing of the city sign regulations, which ad hoc committee of the Planning Commission has been working diligently on for many, many months. And we are doing it also in, we're introducing the ordinance as we are also putting a notice out for public hearing, because we are running up against the end of the year timeline. And I would like for this, this council to be able to vote on this, because this is something that we've been working on for quite a while. So the public hearing will be held at 7 p.m. Monday, November 21st, but we also are holding the first reading of the ordinance. And if there's major changes, we can amend the ordinance and then read it for the first time after November 21st, and then do a suspension or whatever after that. The changes to the sign ordinance, which are multiple, are on the website. And
Yes.
so I would encourage anybody who needs to delve into it in detail to look on there. So,
And the
Nancy?
I was just going to ask her to summarize. Basically, you did it last time, and I thought it was pretty understandable. So, in a nutshell, what you're doing with this is?
Is putting limits and regulations upon rental signs, so that we don't have a proliferation of all the signs out in front yards and blowing around and those sort of things in the city.
And I think that my understanding as well, too, is that it adds some uniformity to the process.
Yes.
So that it's not that one company is offering a sign or language one way and someone else is doing it a different way, so it makes it consistent throughout the community. Is that correct?
Other comments? Come on up, Bill, but while you're coming, Mayor Weil.
Again, it's actually, I had two different task forces that were working on this in the past at least 2 years. The last body that got together was partially landlords and neighborhood association members. It's not what everybody wanted. It represents a compromise. There are elements here I'm not entirely enamored with or charmed by, but again, it's to address the duration of rental signs, and with the intent, again, if you look at the beginning, and you have the hard copy here, the intent to promote and maintain high-quality residential zones throughout the city. It covers R1s primarily in terms of restrictions for the timing of it. I believe it's up to a maximum of 45 days that the rental signs can be out, provided, and after occupancy, they come down. So the issue there is to rental signs to become temporary signs as they're supposed to be.
Bear with me, Bill. Was there other members of council?
I was simply going to say that this was worked on by task force of broad-based group of people throughout the city.
Yes. Member Gosney. Bill, we go through council, then to the public.
Thank you. I think this is a great improvement over what we've seen over, it seems like especially the last 9 months to a year, there's been a lot of proliferation of tons of different sizes and types and giving out brochures and things like that all over the sidewalk. I do disagree with one part of it, and that's that the new form would not allow property management signs in anything but an R3 zone, which in my view is a small placard attached to the side of the house that identifies who's responsible for that property. I think that has benefits to being able to identify who either owns the property or is responsible if the yard is littered, or if there's another problem with it. I think seeing a name attached is not a bad thing. So just wanted to state that to the council.
Other members of council first? Mr. Safranik.
Bill Safranik, 34 Grosvenor Street. I was not on the task force, but I'm related to one person who was and a neighbor of another. And I think there was general agreement and compromise on most of the provisions. One provision, however, with respect to which that was not the case, was the size of the signs. And at the Planning Commission final vote, the mayor moved to amend what was being presented by the task force head, the planning service, the code office director, to reduce the size of the sign to 1 square foot. And I would urge council to consider that one change, and I know it does require a supermajority, but if the council would consider that one change, it would be a way to support the mayor and also the community members of the task force. If the council would consider that. Thank you.
Is it supermajority now?
For this is 5.
5. Okay. So it could be done with a vote of 5. It used to be 6, I believe. So, other comments? So that's it on 116. We move on. Beverly, please come forward. I apologize. You need to sit up front. It's hard to see you all the way back there. If you could state your name and your
Beverly
address.
Flanagan, 132 North Lancaster. I was on that committee. I was on the committee 4 years ago, too. So we're finally making progress. I'm very pleased with this generally. And I compared the previous document with the document passed at the Planning Commission, and I noticed that the size of the sign in R1 rentals has already gone down from 2 square feet to 1.5. So, I mean, if you want to go further to 1, that's fine with me, but I'm quite delighted with 1.5 square feet. I think that's marvelous. You kept 2 square feet, I believe, in R2 and 3 or somewhere else, but in R1 down to 1.5. I have a couple of questions in that same block on page 6 under section 5, all highlighted in yellow. But after the size of 1.5 square feet, you have something that seems very ambiguous to me. Sign must be attached next to front door or visible from in front of the house on the first floor. Does that imply that the sign could be on the grass, visible from in front of the house? I don't like that phrasing. We really did want to have the sign attached to the house, not standing in the yard or anywhere on the front porch pillar or on the second floor or anywhere else. I mean, you might just clarify the language. That's a very ambiguous statement. And then in number 5, sub 5 in that same section, sign must state when rental is available if up after October 15th. I'm wondering how that would be stated. Would there be a hanger, a little tag attached to the sign indicating, as there is on one house on my street right now, available in June of 2012? I think you should just clarify how that would be done. And then I'll add something I mentioned last week too. I would like to see council have some kind of provision whereby someone who wants to extend the sign after October 15th would have to go through the code office to get permission, just so that the code office has a check on those extensions. And that's, I hope you'll consider that. Then I noted down in subsection 12, 1 sign per street front, and I wondered why you had taken that out. Then I realized that in the the intro to section 5, you have 1 combination sign per property, and that takes care of that. So I'm satisfied with that as long as you hold to that. Okay, my only concerns in that section, I haven't double-checked the R2 and R3 sections, but this is enough for now.
Thank you, Ms. Flanagan. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this issue? Seeing none. Announcements and other business. Member Bain.
Mr. President, I'd like to make sure that the first slot on next Monday night, which will be our last meeting, I guess, in October, even if the 5th is the 31st, but anyway, would be reserved for 20 minutes from the Rotary. The Rotary is proposing to redo the Southside Park using playground equipment that's accessible to all people, all children, and they already have some contributions, and so they will be here for 20 minutes. I said 20 minutes max. Chris is aware of it. It's hard if you don't talk all the time for a living to know 20 minutes, but I think these people do. Anyway, they will be talking to us for a short period of time, discussing what they're doing. Really going to be quite a place when it's done.
Other announcements? Yes, Member Sands.
I'm sorry, Finance and Personnel Committee, please.
Specifically to go over that proposal with Mary Ann will be here.
To do that with regard to the
Deposits.
deposit
Yeah.
holdover, yes. We'll ask the treasurer to come.
I did talk to Mary Ann last Wednesday about coming. She said that would be fine.
Okay.
The 24th.
Whenever that
About
next
7:20,
meeting.
we hope.
Okay.
Any other committees? Yes.
Transportation.
Okay. I did notice that the 31st of October is the fifth Monday, and since we meet on the first and third Mondays, it would take a special session for that to happen, so. Any other meetings or any other announcements? Next item on our agenda is an opportunity for citizens to speak on any legislative item or any city service that we did not cover on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone else wishing to speak before council? Seeing none and having addressed all items on our agenda, we stand adjourned.